I used to be a pretty big fan of Tom and Jerry cartoons. As a kid, I used to enjoy binging episodes, watching to see how many ingenious ways the mouse Jerry outsmarted the feline Tom. I played the NES game quite a bit and had loved it, even if I couldn't consistently finish the game. I could usually at least make it to the attic stage though, so when I received Tom and Jerry Frantic Antics in a recent Video Games Monthly box, I figured it could be a fun game to check out for a review. And so here we are. Frantic Antics is allegedly based off of the Tom and Jerry movie of the 90s. I do recall watching this movie as a kid, but I can't tell you that I remember anything from it nowadays. Not that this really matters, because although the story is touched upon before and after each stage, it's not so in depth that you really need to know what's going on. Simply know that you are trying to save a girl by reuniting her with her father, and at the same time escape the house you live in, since it's being actively deconstructed. I really don't remember this from the movie, but again, it's been a while. You get to alternate playing as both Tom and Jerry. Tom tends to feel a bit slower than Jerry, and obviously is much bigger, resulting in a larger hitbox. This does tend to cause problems at times, since as Tom it is slightly harder to dodge obstacles. In any case, the game is a standard platformer. You can move around, duck, run, and jump. One thing I noticed right from the bat is that you don't have a lot of ways to defend yourself. You can pick up items around the environment, which are all dependent on the stage that you are playing. In the alley level, Jerry will toss garbage can lids at his enemies, and in the first stage, Tom will throw footballs. The thing is, you never feel like you have enough ammo to properly avoid damage. In addition, there's a noticeable delay in between when you press the C button and when the projectile is actually launched. This delay isn't much, but I have taken damage because of it. Because there's not a lot of projectile pickups, I've caught myself focusing more on evading enemies as opposed to flat out attacking them. But there were a lot of times where I just felt like this just wasn't enough. Some enemies are nearly impossible to leap over, and there are frequent environmental traps, such as exploding televisions, falling vases, and caged dogs. I felt like I was missing something. And I was. Hinted at when watching the demo at the start of the game. I reread the manual and found that the developers took a page from Sonic's playbook, in that you can tuck and roll when running, somersaulting into threats and taking them out that way. If only it worked as well as Sonic though. In Sonic, as long as you are moving at a decent clip, you can hit down and curl up into a ball, defeating most enemies in your way. In Frantic Antics, you have to gain a good amount of speed before crouching down. In addition, since you need to hold down the A button to run, this is an extra button, making the roll a bit more awkward to use. Since you need more speed than you might imagine, there were a few times where I thought I was going fast enough, pressed down, and nothing happened other than a standard duck, causing me to take damage. It got to the point where I abandoned using this move and went back to my simple evasion mentality. It doesn't help that the enemies move a bit faster than you might expect, giving you little time to properly evade or attack. Now, if you do take damage, there are plenty of items that you can find to collect to replenish your health. For Tom, it's fish, and for Jerry, it's cheese. Cheese. Each time you pick one up, you gain a very small sliver of life back. There is a larger version of each, which fully heals your character. In addition, you can supposedly gain an extra life if you find 100 of these items. There is a small catch to this though. The 100 items need to be found in the stage that you are currently in. For example, I cleared the first stage with 98 fish. Not bad. I started the next level and suddenly I was back to 0. That kinda sucks. Truth be told, this wasn't much of a problem because embarrassingly, I was only able to complete 2 of the stages, the first and the third. Thanks to a level select code, I was able to show more of the game. But why couldn't I do it on my own? Well, there are some cheap areas in the game. The library is inundated with enemies, and being that there isn't a lot of invulnerability frames when getting hit, it's easy to succumb to cumulative damage. But even worse, in the second stage, there are wrecking balls that are swinging at specific areas of the level. For the most part, these are easy to avoid. But late in the stage, you run into one that's raised a bit higher than the others. And yes, it kills you outright. Even better, there are no in-stage checkpoints, so anytime you die, you start at the beginning of the level. These levels aren't exactly short either, with each taking about 5 minutes or so. So imagine that you are nearing the finish line, and then you get dragged kicking and screaming back to the start. it kinda kills any sort of motivation to keep playing the game, I gotta be honest. On the plus side, the graphics are pretty nice. Tom and Jerry both look accurate to their cartoon origins, and the stages are mostly colorful and detailed. Sound-wise though, the game lacks. The music isn't terrible, but it loops frequently. The sound effects, on the other hand, they're not too impressive. When falling from higher heights, a tone plays that seems to threaten that you'll take damage when you hit the ground, but this doesn't happen. Anything that falls from a ledge, like vases, play a deafening boom when striking the floor. And oddest of all, the jump sound effect you hear when leaping sounds metallic in nature. It feels so out of place in a game like this. I noticed it right from the start of the game and just thought, why is this the effect that the developers chose? Frantic Antics isn't the worst game based on a license I've ever played, but it's definitely not one of the best I played on the Genesis either. The game plays okay enough, but with the slightly laggy controls, unwieldy roll, and at times unfair difficulty, it's actually hard to recommend. If you were into Tom and Jerry, I'd recommend sticking with the NES game, but if you absolutely must play a game based on the movie, then well, this will do, at least for an hour or so. Final score? 4 out of 7. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.